Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. This week, again, solo. It's becoming a bit of a theme, but you know what? That is okay because I've done a lot of interviews over how long's it been now? I started this at the height of COVID, this podcast. So what started as a hobby became obviously a very regular thing and a resource of information for a lot of people, and they relied on the podcast each week to sort of just further their own education on their journey. But through that time, obviously, I interviewed a lot of people, a lot of different people, really, really insightful stuff, great education, great knowledge, really interesting. So feel free to scroll back through the 210 so episodes that I've done over the last 4 to 5 years. And just pick out, a topic that you like, or search for a topic that you like. And even if you're unsure, message me and just ask, because there were some great insights, whether it was people that you wouldn't even have heard of, like just everyday people with great stories, or people who are well respected in a certain field that might be able to share and shed some light on certain topics that we discussed. But today I wanted to talk just about the landscape of coaching and how we are now in a very transitional period of time where information is at our doorstep. We've got Google, we've got social media, we've got YouTube, and now we've got ChatGPT, I can't even say that correctly, ChatGPT and AI at the forefront. So it is making information incredibly accessible. So, as an example, you could basically jump on ChatGPT, say I am a 35-year-old male, I want to build muscle, I train 5 days a week with weights, and currently I weigh 90 kilos. I want a diet plan based around these parameters to have 5 meals a day. I've got no allergies, etc. Hit enter, and it'll spit you something out that's pretty competitive and pretty good, pretty on the money. As long as you give it the prompts and the necessary information, it'll do its best to give you the best possible outcome based on the information available. So it can do all those things. It can write your training program. It can do all these things. The one thing it can't do, and this is what I want to talk about, the one thing it can't do is coach. Now, coaching in old school terms was very much about, when you think of a coach, you think of someone managing a boys soccer team, or, the head coach of the New York Yankees, or the head coach of the Melbourne Storm. Like, that's the sort of idea you got when it came to a coach, someone who ran mostly team sports, right? And then we obviously transitioned into, there was a lot of coaching happening that was very niche, sprint coaches, and high performance coaches, and swimming coaches, and movement coaches, and it just sort of stemmed from there. And now in current times, fitness coaches have become a real thing. Health coaches, fitness coaches, nutrition coaches, obviously bodybuilding coaches as well. It's very current and on trend, and that's just the way the landscape has changed, because there seems to have been a demand for it. And this again, and I bring this up every podcast, it stems back to obviously our heavily processed food and the heavily processed groceries that we have access to are highly palatable, heavy in calories, and highly addictive. Therefore, we have an overweight problem in society in general. That leads to prompting a high demand on people holding individuals to account, namely coaches, to further advance their own health and fitness and education around the space. So there is a big demand for it, and there is definitely a market for it. People, I quoted something the other day, and I can't exactly remember the wording, but it was along the lines of, all the information is available, and if you were going to do something about it, you would have already done it. And that is in relation to your own health and fitness. If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to put on muscle, if you're just trying to go to the gym more regularly, if you're trying to, learn, be fitter, be stronger, be happier, just general health. If you were going to do it, you would have done it, because all the information is there. And I go back to my original point. You can Google, or you can chat GPT a meal plan, or a training program, or a running program, or a schedule of any description that you want, and it can provide it. The big hurdle that most people find is that they have to do it, and they have to actually hold themselves to account. And it's not just doing it, it's doing it over and over and over again for it to be successful. for you to see results, for you to get better at whatever discipline you are chasing. If it's weight loss, you've got to turn up. You've got to be in a deficit. You've got to stop cheating on your diet. You've got to stop snacking at night time. Who's going to hold you to that account? You know, is your husband going to do it? Is your wife going to do it? Are your kids going to do it? Probably not. So you've got to do it, or you engage the services of a coach who can hold you to a higher level, hold you to more accountability with weekly check-ins, etc. But with all the information available, if you are a very disciplined individual, you won't need a coach unless you want one, unless you want to take that decision fatigue off yourself. If you want to get rid of that pressure and just reach out to someone who can tell you what to do and say, right, this is how you're going to train, this is what you're going to eat, go about your business, we'll be in communication at least once a week, and that is that. And some people live and thrive in that environment, and that's great, fantastic. But if you are the general population and you struggle from day to day to find time, if you struggle from day to day to eat your food, often probably skipping meals because you quote unquote don't have time, and then the pressure of getting to the gym is too much and it feels overwhelming, and you get to Friday afternoon and all you want to do is sit down and have a block of cheese and a glass of wine, well then maybe you need a little bit more accountability. Maybe it's not the issue that you don't have time. Maybe it's the issue that you just need someone to represent you. You need someone who can draw a line in the sand for you and go, hang on a second, we need to make some changes, because a quote I love to say is, without change, there is no change. And that is factual. If you don't make change, there's going to be no change. It's very, very simple. I'll give you an example. And I'm happy to talk about this. I had a client recently cancel, and he was only with me for a matter of weeks. I think 3 weeks in total. Signed up to nutrition coaching, was enthusiastic at the start, but within a week I kind of got the idea, and I'm pretty good at reading people's communication, or reading between the lines, getting context from people's communication styles and levels, as well as obviously body language when I see them face to face, and this communication was quite poor. I had to chase him for his first check-in. He didn't submit a second one, even though he acknowledged the first one eventually. The second one, finally I got onto him, and it came in 3 days late. And then the third one came in, I think it was the same day, but a few hours later than expected. And we made some changes to try and accommodate his requirements, because I could feel that things were turning. I could feel that he wasn't, he clearly wasn't following the plan, and he acknowledged that. And then this morning, so this will be like 3.5 weeks, he basically sent me a message and said he needed to cancel. Didn't give me a reason, but it was very evident that it was on him because he wasn't willing to invest. It was on him because there was too much resistance from his end to want to make change. He was comfortable with where he was at in life. Even though he acknowledged he needed to lose some weight, he wasn't prepared to make sacrifices to do so. Now, I can't help people that don't want to help themselves, right? I gave him the lay of the land. I gave him every single piece of information that I would give anybody else. And I said this to him in an exit survey. I said, at the end of the day, you know, I've been in this industry 12 years now. I've had thousands of results, amazing results from people, and it's because they've done the work, right? They've invested, they've bought into the process. Sure, there's been resistance at times, but people have slowly evolved and adapted, but they need time. And this gentleman didn't give me the time. He gave me 3 weeks, and that wasn't anywhere near enough when there was resistance from day one. So look, all the power to him, and if that's the decision he makes, that's the decision he makes. But it's a perfect example of people not being prepared to want to change. And you've got to be willing to change. And this is where the coaching landscape now is started to evolve. And you know, believe it or not, in my weekly check-ins with lifestyle clients, a lot of what I do is actually more psychological and more counselling than it is nutrition and training. Because at the end of the day, it's simple enough, right? You turn up and you work really hard in the gym, and you get a sweat on, you heighten your heart rate, you shorten your breath, you work out for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and you leave. You do that 3, 4, 5 times a week. That's a big green tick. Nutrition's the same. We know that we need to be in a calorie deficit. Everyone knows that. We know we need to eat clean. Everyone knows that. We know we need to eat relative to our body's requirements. High protein, lower carbs, moderate fats, calories at a certain amount. If we can't figure that calculation out, again, you can put it into ChatGPT and figure it out, or you can Google it. It's not that hard. And then, you know, that's another easy tool to utilize. But what is difficult is all the other things that come with that. And that's where people are firstly getting stuck, but secondly, coming undone when they're trying to do it themselves. Stress management is a big one. I actually did a stress management course because I knew this was evolving into this space, and I know how significant stress is on the human body. It is profound. It is, without a doubt, heavily undervalued and underrated in terms of how impactful it can be on the human body. If you are highly stressed, like highly stressed in terms of nervous energy, in terms of anxiety, in terms of short breaths, in terms of just constantly not being able to switch off, and you get the tension in your neck, and your muscles are all wound up, and you lose your appetite, or you want to emotionally eat, the other extreme. That is high stress, and that can significantly influence how your body responds to a diet. Like, dieting is a form of stress. Weight training is a form of stress. Running is a form of stress. But you compound all those things that are obviously positive forms of stress with the stress that you're succumbing to and haven't learned to manage, from work, from finance, from relationship, from kids, from whatever it is. It's not going to end up well, and a lot of people don't realise that, and they wonder why they're not losing weight, or they're not having success, even though they're training well and they're eating well. It's probably stress management. So you've got to understand that needs to be broken down, and this is another element to coaching that has evolved over the last probably 5 years, where the coach needs to be qualified and educated in that space to offer, practical solutions to the situation. How are you managing your stress? What are you doing about it? Are you learning how to breathe properly? Are you, looking after your self-care? What's your sleep like? Like, all of these things, there's so many facets to this that can be broken down and really unpacked instrumentally to further advance the individual. I've had great success with so many people over so many years, and again, it goes back to the repetitious, or the repetitive sort of cycle that you use when you're trying to learn something new. If you want to manage your stress better, you need to do something about it. But you need to do that, whatever that is, that tool that you find is useful to you, you need to do that multiple times for it to be effective. It's like dieting. Stick to the same diet, you're going to lose weight. It's like training. Train really well, you're going to put on some muscle. But you've got to do it repetitively over a lengthy period of time for your body to adapt, for your mind to adapt, for it to become part of your week, and then you will be successful. So this is what coaching has become. It has become that space where people are more reliant on the smaller 1%ers than they are on the things that they know they can potentially do. Coaching now, we now track steps, we now track sleep, we now track calories, we now track HRV. But all of this information is available, but it's the behaviour, it's the empathy, it's the calling people out on poor behaviour. These sorts of things are the communication. This is where coaching really comes to its own. And the successful coaches that are out there know this stuff. They know it well. They know their clients. They know what triggers them. They know how to manage them. They know how to get the best out of them. They know what to say and when to say it. Like a coach that I wouldn't say idolise, but I look up to a lot, and I've read a lot of his books, is Wayne Bennett. Now, many of you would know who Wayne Bennett is if you're an Australian and you follow Australian sport. Wayne Bennett's one of the most successful coaches in sporting history. He's won 7 competitions in the NRL, as well as obviously national titles with Australia and interstate titles with Queensland. And his way of coaching is very much about the individual. He's often referred to as a man manager because he works on the individual. He knows the right buttons to push. He knows how to get the best out of an individual by the things he says and the way he acts. He's not an X's and O's coach. He's not one that relies heavily on data. And this is what I'm talking about, where coaching has become more than just the nutrition and more than just the training. Anyone can be an online fitness coach and say, here's a program, here's a meal plan, off you go. The real coaching, the real skill and art of coaching is knowing the individual. And this is where, again, I go back to the example I gave before about time, giving time. This is where you learn about an individual over time. I would say a minimum time frame to working with someone would be 3 months, minimum, to get the most out of them and really understand their nuances, their triggers, their activity levels, what sets them off, how their emotions work, like all of these things. So. And Wayne's the best at it. Like, whenever you read one of his books or you go to a speaking engagement that he presents at, which he doesn't do many of, you can really understand how he's a master at holding a conversation. When he walks into the room, people stop. He has that presence. And a good coach does that. So when he walks into a team meeting or where he's going to present to his players, they all stop. They don't stuff around. They're not talking to each other. There's no chitter chatter. There's no shenanigans or whatever. They stop and they listen because they have his respect. So he commands respect. He lays down the law in terms of what he's delivering, and players want to play for him. So in terms of me, I would love it to know, and I'd be confident in saying that a lot of my athletes, a lot of my lifestyle clients want to perform well for me out of respect, because I've earned that respect with the time I've been in the industry, with the knowledge and education that I've obtained, but also with the systems I have in place and the coaching style that I offer. So that is what I'm talking about. That's where the coaching industry as a whole is heading. It's more about people management, it's more about individual management, it's more about the individual themselves than it is about X's and O's and numbers and data and things like that. As relevant as they are, and they are relevant because you can't do one without the other, but human beings are so complex. Their physiology, their brain chemistry, the way they react to things is so complex that you can't cookie cutter one program and then give it to the next person and expect it to be just as successful. It doesn't work that way. Even though they may be, like, you could line up two amazing athletes, but their programming could be very, very different simply because they work differently, they think differently, they act differently, they perform differently. So one program doesn't work the same if it's with a different person who obviously needs something completely different. And I could be wrong in that too. Like, some people can obviously work on a similar programming system if they choose to, and that's fine. One thing I have noticed, as I said earlier, like, anyone can write a program, right? Any fitness coach, anyone who claims to be a fitness coach, and that's the thing. Like, this industry is so under-regulated. It's not funny. So the onus does fall on the individual when they're hiring someone to make sure that they ask the appropriate questions, make sure they see credentials, they see qualifications, they see proof of the work that they're claiming that they do. You've got to do your due diligence, they've got insurance, like all of these things. But you've also got to be prepared to run the gauntlet a little bit. Like, there's always an element of risk when you're working with someone new, and I get that. But if you can speak to and get testimonials from people who have worked with them before, and look at their socials and look at who's tagging them, like, there is a lot of due diligence that you can do as an individual before you hire someone. But at the end of the day, like, it is a heavily saturated market. Every second person is trying to be an online fitness coach because they deem it to be an easy earn, when in point of fact it's not, and I'm here to attest that. It is fucking ridiculously hard. It is emotionally draining, and it takes its toll, and I've experienced that firsthand. So, but I'm still here, and I wouldn't do anything else. But you're only going to get the most out of yourself if the coach is willing to put the most into you from their end as well. But I think a lot of the accountability, which I'll go back to, comes from there being so much information, and people are, look, we're in a, I know I'm tangenting a little bit here, but we're in an instant gratification world at the moment. As much as the coaching space and the health and fitness space is evolving, so is human behaviour, to a point where, I can see it firsthand where people, and I'm sure people are going to nod to this, you're sitting at home, you're watching TV, but you're also on your phone, and you're flicking between reels or flicking between shorts or whatever on your phone, but the TV's going too, so you're getting overloaded with information. So your attention span is short, and this is why we live in an instant gratification world, and why it's so integral when you have a business that relies heavily on social media, that you've got to have a hook within your social media posts or reels or whatever within the first 3 seconds for it to be effective. Like, this is the stuff we have to think of as coaches now. It's ridiculous. You can't just offer the service and that's it. You've got to, if you want to grow and build, particularly with an online presence, you've got to think of all these things. It is crazy. But my point is instant gratification. People want results now. This is why the Ozempic and Mounjaro and Wegovy markets are exploding, because people see results and they go, I want to do that too. They're irrespective of the outcome, irrespective of the negative issues that come with that, and that's a whole other topic, and I have done a podcast on that already. People want results now. They're not prepared to wait 12 weeks. They're not prepared to wait 6 months. They want results in a matter of weeks. They want to see results. They want to see that scale number go down. They want to see muscle mass go up. They want to see it straight away. So you've got to put that to the side, and it's an uphill battle. It is a constant battle for coaches to try and overcome that and try and sell the truth and try and promote the truth. And strong is good. It's about strength. It's about health. It's about nutrition. It's about understanding what's right and wrong, clearing out the bullshit and actually getting to the root of the problem for the individual. Again, what coaching is all about, but it can be quite challenging because I know coaches now, and I know this firsthand, that some coaches are offering packages, coaching packages, fitness coaching packages that are inclusive of a GLP-1. Can you believe that? That is where we're getting to. So people are that desperate to get paid clients that they will go to extreme lengths to get them results and not even think or have their best interests at heart and not even think about the ramifications down the track. They don't care because all they're thinking about is the dollars. You see, anyone who follows a lot of fitness coaches online or fitness influencers, you see them spruiking and sort of peacocking their monthly incomes. I'm at 100K this month, I'm at 50K this month, or even higher than that in some instances. I can tell you right now, a lot of that is BS because, firstly, if you're 100K a month, there's no way you're earning that on your own if you're managing, clients by yourself. You've got a team of coaches under you. That's how you've earned that. So straight away, the person who hires the coach doesn't get the coach. They get one of their minions. Second to that, the other alternative is when they're earning 100K a month or something like that. It's a front-loaded amount. So people are paying for 12 months in advance. You get 10 people, 12 people paying 12 months in advance. Guess what? You've just had a massive month of income. So they're advertising that. So it's kind of a false economy there. So that's sort of the pretext of both of those situations. So you can see a lot of coaches are driven by the number. They're not driven by the individual. They're not driven by the customer. And unfortunately, the people who care, the people who actually put in effort, the people who continually educate themselves are left behind because social media dictates where people go a lot of the time in terms of decision making. And it is a real shame that the landscape is changing that much, that people are making decisions based on social media and not actual fact. But this is where we are, and this is the landscape of coaching as it stands. So you've kind of got to, it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. You've kind of got to ward your way through, sift your way through until you find the person you want. And sometimes, and I've had this firsthand, where clients will go to a coach, they don't like them, they don't like what they've offered, they'll misled, whatever, then they go to the next one, then they go to the next one. And it's taken them a couple of years before they actually land on the one they want, and then boom, they're in and they're invested and they're getting results, etc. You kind of got to do that. There is a little bit of trial and error there, unfortunately. It's like finding a physio you like or a masseuse you like. You might have to go through a couple of them before you actually find the one that works best for you. So yeah, look, it is an ever-evolving, ever-changing landscape. The environment is swiftly changing with the introduction of ChatGPT, constant Google updates, YouTube, social media. There's more of that sort of stuff coming as well. AI, it is hectic what can be created when you start to put your head into it and actually understand how it works. Like you can write a whole recipe book just by giving ChatGPT or one of these other ones all the necessary prompts, like a full glossy picture recipe book. It's incredible. I've seen it firsthand, and you would think it was done by a professional, but Chat's just created the whole thing from scratch based on your prompt. So this is the landscape that we're heading into. And I guess the point of this podcast is to just understand the coaching system at hand, the coaching industry, what a coach actually does. And I'm proud to call myself a coach because that's what I do. I'm not a personal trainer. I do personal training sessions, and I do have clients that purely come just for personal training, but I have a lot of clients that come for the coaching, which covers all the things I spoke about, not just nutrition and not just training, but stress management, sleep management, water intake, step count, mental health, sleep hygiene. Like all of these factors are integral to the success of your health and fitness. And if you want to be healthy, if you want to be fit, if you can potentially think 30 years from now, 40 years from now, if you're on the trajectory that your lifestyle is currently on, Are you going to be better off or worse off? Ask yourself that question. And I guarantee you, a lot of you are going to say, oh, I'm probably going to be worse off because of not enough time, highly stressed, poor diet, lack of eating, skipping meals, don't get to the gym enough, my water intake is down, my sleep is terrible. If that is you, or if you've ticked at least 3 of those, you need some help. And I mean that with all due respect, but you need some help. Otherwise, your trajectory is going to continue on a really bad path. You're going to end up with more medical bills than you can afford. You're going to be taking heaps of different drugs that you probably don't want to be taking, whereas you can prevent a lot of that now. You get stronger, you're going to build up your immune system. You get stronger, you're going to avoid bone breakdown, joint breakdown, muscle loss. So you're going to avoid lethargy and weakness. You're going to be more productive, you're going to be more efficient, you're going to be a better worker, a better partner, a better parent. If you get stronger, you're going to metabolize more food. Therefore, your calorie intake can be higher. Therefore, you're going to have a heightened level of energy every single day without fail. You're going to be strong because then you can pick things up, you can carry your kids, you can run after them, you can recover well, you're going to sleep well because you train well and you have muscle mass to do so. You'd be surprised at the amount of benefits that come from just regular training, better eating, but also managing all the other aspects. You can really change your life. And often people don't realize it until they've gotten out of it. They just think how they feel is the norm. And think about it, like if you're lethargic, you wouldn't know you're lethargic unless you then experience what non-lethargic people would feel like. So you've got to go through that to actually invest in it and feel the other side and then go, whoa, I didn't realize how crap I felt until I made this change. So is it worth making the change? 30 years from now, what does your life look like? Do you need to invest in something now? Is it worth the investment? Don't go low investment. I did a post the other day, low investment returns a low yield. You don't get what you want out of it. And ironically, I put a post up in a local community group advertising my gym here, and I think I got about 30 comments or 30 messages. And I'd say 25 of them, the first thing they asked was how much? How much is your session? Because they were making the decision based on money. They weren't making a decision based on need. Their need is to get fitter. Their need is to lose weight. And they know this, but they're making the decision based on money, more so than anything else. And that should not dictate. That means they're going to shop around, they're going to find a cheap $30 a session trainer who doesn't know their ass from their elbow, and they're going to get a session that probably is going to injure them or not get anywhere because they'll just be floundering and get through 3 exercises in an hour. So that is the fact of the matter, and that is the industry we live in, unfortunately. All right, I hope this didn't come across as a rant, but it's something that's sort of been bubbling away in the background for a long period of time. And look, the industry is changing, it really is. And for anyone that's working with a coach or working in the industry or is considering getting into the industry or is looking to engage a coach, I hope this provides some clarity. I hope this provides some relevant information. I hope this provides a resource for you to lean on if you need to. But it is a good idea to ask the appropriate questions, lean on people who have done it before, and just know what you're looking for as well. And don't be stingy on what you're prepared to pay. Like if you can afford takeout, if you can afford Netflix, if you can afford regular holidays, carton of beer, glass of wine, a bottle of wine, you can afford a coach. You really can. And people find it in their budget if they're willing to invest because they know it's important. All right, thank you once again. If you're interested in any of my coaching services, of course, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com and reach out via contact us. Excuse me, I'm getting a dry throat. I'm currently got a very good offer on my app membership. 30 days, the first 30 days are free. You can trial it as much as you like, and then at the day 29, if you don't like it, cancel it. You don't pay anything. So over 60 programs, resources in terms of over 200 recipes. Actually, I think it's up to 300 now. Macro calculator, video resources. There are so many things in there that you can fully utilize in that 30 days. So dial in, have a look. It is completely free. Alternatively, if you just want to book in for a chat and find out more about what I do, maybe you want some face-to-face, maybe you want some online, maybe you want some both, let me know and I'm more than happy to help. But for now, as I say to every client, every single day, you have a great day.